to make clay plates. Well, I've simplified the process quite a bit, and thanks to this piece of equipment right here, it is called an extruder. And simply what the extruder does is that I've got clay in here, and when I pull this down, like this, it shoots the clay out, and I'll just go ahead and cut that. And it comes out of it like a tube, and then when I cut it, it comes into a slab piece like this. And then we can take this and put it on a styrofoam plate to make our clay plates. Now to continue the plates and make them into a shape of a plate, what I have is some just styrofoam plates here, and I got two of them for support because sometimes they break and I just reuse them, and that's fine. It's important that you put a newsprint on, because when the clay dries it shrinks and it'll stick to this plate and it'll break your clay if we're not careful. So we're going to put a piece of newsprint down. Then I'll take that slab that I made. I'm going to set it on the styrofoam right now, and I'm going to push down in the middle first. Okay, I'm going to find those little edges that is on the plate, kind of go around it like this, kind of keep my hands firm but flat. I'm not trying to make a lot of fingerprints here. Keep it nice and firm and flat. And then I'm going to take this tool here and I'm going to find the edge of the styrofoam plate. And as I go around, I'm just simply going to cut it, the clay, to make a plate shape. It goes fairly quickly. I'm just going to move this around here like this, and there we go, and come like that. If you rip a piece, you can always just kind of push it back in together, and I'll put that over there for a second. Now the next thing I need to do is smooth it out. I've got fingerprints in there. I've got and something that I really look for when I'm grading the pieces is nice edges. Okay, so I'm going to take the edge here like this and kind of round it out. And now notice that, I'll get close here, notice that I rounded out this part, but when the plate dries, I'm taking this styrofoam off, and it looks fine now, but if I pull this up, there's a real sharp edge, and if that dries, that's not going to be comfortable on your hands. So one of the things that I do is I turn it around like this, and I try to make that nice and smooth all the way around. And in fact, that's probably one of the first things you want to do. Now look here, we got a nice big piece like that. I can cut that a little more and twirl that around like that. And I'm not going to bore you right now, but I'm going to straighten this out, kind of get it really nice and ready for my image. So let's pretend I did the entire piece and I got the edge as smooth as I can. And if there's a few, misshapen thing, that's fine. This is fine arts. I expect it to be an original. If I wanted perfect plates, we just buy perfect plates. Factories can make them a lot better these days than we could ever make them. But you're making an original work of art. Now, as I mentioned before, we are using a special process of laser prints, and I've established this printer back there to print on clay. So what do I mean by that? Well, I took the heating element out, so this is actually a bad print, and I'll show you why. Because if you touch this, it had not adhered to the paper because it had no heating element in it. Now that's good for us, because what we're going to do, and I'm going to cut the paper. I don't have to cut the paper, but I will, just so that it doesn't wrinkle on me and I get a really flat edge. Now I don't have to cut it exactly around the object, just enough that I can sit it on the paper, and I'm trying very careful not to touch the image. I'm going to then put it on, make sure this is nice and flat. If you have fingerprints on that might miss a spot. And I'm going to set it on here, and then I want to rub across the whole thing. Now of course I can't move it, because if I move it, it'll get a double print and it won't work. But I'm going to rub, kind of go both directions just to make sure I have it. It's not the amount of time, it's just the amount of rubbing. Firm but not too hard on that. And I pull that up, and I've got a really nice print there. Notice it's backwards, so you can't do words and stuff like that. And then you can take some of these smaller images for the sides of this, and I'm willing to resize images for you. So if you say, well, I want, I like the chess pieces here because they represent a relationship I have with somebody like that, a real smart person I know. And okay, so here we go. I'm gonna do that, rub that in there, and I can pull that off. If you mess it up, let's say, oh man, I didn't want to do that. The nice thing is you can just kind of rub over top of it, and you'd have to print it again, but you can get a second chance at this. Now, of course, I don't want second and thirds and fourth chances, but do your best on the first chance. And then let's say I wanted it over just a little bit more, maybe on its side or something like that. And I can rub on that, and that would be, there we go. Rub that up like that. Some students have taken like a dull pencil, not too sharp, and outlined it. You can do that when you're finished, but please do not push really hard. Like this is good because I'm getting the outside of my horse, not too deep. If you go real deep, you know, like like that, and push into it, not only do you get these little pieces of clay that stick up, and that'll cause a burr that'll actually hurt when I fire it and it's hard. This actually went through half of that plate. I've had kids, you know, put a design on the outside. You're welcome to do that. You can add clay. You can I wouldn't do a lot of clay, but you could add clay like this and push it into the clay and add some sort of design by putting little coils around, or you could draw into it somehow and add a design. That's fine. I've had kids kind of go, oh, I want to do, you know, zigzags like this. Well, this is so hard. I don't know if you can tell, but I've gone almost all the way through the plate, and this would be very easy to just break off right there. Now, if you want a design that has a jagged edge, that's fine. I've had some students go and kind of do this number on the plate so that they have a variety of you know, an edge like that. They can do that. You know, it's up to you. Be creative with it. It's an original work of art. Just don't push really deep unless you want a hole there. So be very careful of that. Like I said, I'm looking for nice edges and clean prints.